Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to look at the management styles and skills that can be involved in employee relations. So we've covered management styles and management skills a long time ago, so back in Unit 3. So they're all the same. The skills and styles are exactly the same, but what we need to do is just look at which ones can be used in employee relations. Now, there's no hard and fast rules here. You can probably justify most of them, but we'll just go through some that it's a little bit easier to justify in certain situations. So what kind of style, we'll start off with the styles. What kind of style depends on the actual task that the manager or the human resource manager is undertaking. So I've gone through the three roles. That's, negotiating an agreement, implementing an agreement, and resolving any disputes. So we'll look at those sort of areas, and so we'll start off with negotiating agreement, and we say that a consultative style is often the most appropriate. Now, the reasons why we don't use autocratic or persuasive is because there's actually bargaining that has to take place, so that's important, and bargaining is obviously listening to the other side, so that rules those two out. And participative, we can often rule that one out in negotiation because it takes too long, and as well, it allows, if you were to use participative, it would give the employees the ability to make decisions, which isn't really appropriate when negotiating a new agreement, because they don't know the whole financial position of the organisation. They don't know exactly what they're trying to achieve out of their employee relations all the time. So if they were able to make decisions, they might give themselves better conditions and higher wages than the organisation could afford. So that's why consultative is important, because you're listening to the actual employees, but then you're actually making a decision or making an offer. So consultative considers the employee's needs, but essentially the manager or the organisation makes the final decision on what the agreement, on the offer that they're going to make to the employees. So styles, again, differ depending on what the role is. So if we look at implementing the new agreement, now you can probably argue any here, but I'm just pointing out that you could probably argue autocratic also. So this isn't to say that autocratic, you have to use autocratic when you're implementing the agreement. I'm not saying that at all, but I'm just showing you that you can probably argue that here, because there's times where when you're implementing the new agreement, the wages have to be there on time, so the wage increases, all the extra conditions have to be put into place in a timely manner. So because time is of the essence, you might use autocratic or you might use persuasive, so you can always argue that. And when resolving disputes, again, not a hard and fast rule, but consultative is probably, again, one of the ones that you can argue for quite easily, because you're listening to the employees or the workers' needs, so that's important. Now, when we look at skills, again, I've broken it down into the three areas. The skills, these are pretty straightforward. So if we look at negotiating agreements, negotiation is obviously clearly one that is needed. Communication, two-way communication is important. Any kind of problem solving, and delegation. Now, I'll put delegation in there because what happens if the human resource manager has got their normal day-to-day tasks. Now, while they're actually negotiating an agreement, they may need to delegate those tasks to someone else. So that's why delegation is in there. When they're implementing the agreements, communication is obviously important so that everyone is clear on what needs to be done. So if the payroll officer knows when and what the pay rises are, any policies or procedures that have changed, they need to be implemented. Time management as a result of that, because they need to be done by a due date. And delegation, it's hard for the human resource manager to do everything, so we need delegation again. When resolving disputes, obviously that is a major problem, so the problem solving is crucial, and if there's a dispute such as a strike, you need to nut that out and solve problems. That can be quite a stressful time for managers, owners of the organisations, as well as the employees. So stress management is important. Communication, always, two-way communication is always easily justifiable, and obviously negotiation, because you're trying to get them back to work or you're trying to resolve a dispute somehow. So just to recap, styles and skills required depends on the task being undertaken. Styles, consultative is often the most appropriate, but as we said, you can justify some others at certain times. And some of the common skills: communication, delegation, problem solving, time management, negotiation, and stress management can be crucial. And remember, for all the questions and activities for this video, go to teachingbubble.com.